Hello, welcome back again. So we're back in GRN studio in Winchester. Though for those who have joined late, I have with me my rhinology and skull-based colleague, Raewyn Campbell from Sydney, Australia. So far we had a great discussion and good fun with talking about the books on frontal sinus surgery and then septal perforation management. So we're really looking forward to our next book, which is the last book, which is the book on endoscopic skull-based surgery. So it's an atlas. It's an atlas covering the whole 360-degree skull base. So it's a great concept. It's not just the anterior skull base book, but it covers the whole 360-degree skull base. Again, contributed by giant in the field, Prepageran Narayanan, Kuala Lumpur, and Narayan Jayashankar from Mumbai, India. We will also have an expert joining for this event, Professor Ricardo Carrau from Columbus, Ohio, and we can't really wait to hear his expert opinion on this book. So can I also mention, so we have a PDF book which is freely available online by Medtronic, focusing on office-based rhinological procedures. So I'll share the PDF of the book. So it's office-based rhinological surgery, very useful, very relevant to our outpatient surgical practice. It brings in new concepts as well, that what conditions, what things we can move from our OR settings to the outpatients. So informative books, I will strongly recommend for you to have a look, and it's available free online. So without further ado, can I invite Professor Prepageran Narayanan from Kuala Lumpur and Narayan Jayashankar from Mumbai, India to join us for the book review on Atlas of 360-degree skull-based surgery. Again, another prized position in my library. I have my own personal copy, find it very, very useful. So welcome, Prepa. So it's a privilege to have you. Welcome, Narayan.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ashok.
Okay.
And Raewyn, thank you. And we also say a big thank you to Professor Ricardo Carrau. I know it's very early in the morning over there, and I know he has to run for surgery. Thank you very much for being there.
Okay.
Thanks for doing it.
So welcome, Prof. Ricardo. And I know it's so early in the morning, and you're about to start your very busy skull-based list. Like the Raewyn has finished the list, and Rick is going to start the list. So we're really going around the globe, and that's bringing the benefits being truly global. So welcome, Rick. And about this book, we don't want to hold you too long, but we'll be really interested in hearing your perspective and expert opinion about this very interesting book.
Yes, so I think that this is a very special book. The first thing that caught my attention, being visually oriented, is the beautiful photographs that they have from all the step-by-step procedures. So as a surgeon, again, this calls your attention right away. A big difference between this book and other atlases that I have had the opportunity to evaluate is that these are real surgical pictures. So instead of your brain having to transfer anatomical information from a cadaver into your patient, these are clinical pictures that are very clear, very well illustrated, very high definition, and again, organized in a way that is a step-by-step. Once you get recovered from the shock and awe of looking at all these wonderful pictures, then you start looking at the content of the book. As the title implies, it's a 360-degree view of the skull base. That has been the evolution of the skull-based surgery. Instead of just looking at certain approach or certain direction to approach certain pathology, mostly based on your training and your different biases, this book is going to look at different areas from multiple approaches, multiple directions, and it gives you a great perspective on how to think about taking a lesion out in the best possible way. So it is very comprehensive. They have also integrated all the management of the lesion from the moment that you start looking at certain pathology and you start thinking about how you're going to manage it, to the preoperative preparation, the surgical preparation, the surgery itself, and then the postoperative management. The one thing that I like a lot about the book that I think the people that with less experiences are gonna love too is their tips and pearls. It immediately tells you where you're gonna find trouble, how to deal with it, and I think that's a big plus for the book. I have seen other atlases that again have some of the components of this book, but I have not seen the integration of all the bells and whistles in just one atlas. So in sum, I highly recommend this book. Yeah, I think that for somebody who's starting on this field, it's a game changer. For people who have experience, you're gonna love the content of the book. I commend the authors for the immense job that they had in their hands, and I think that they surpass any expectations that you could have. You will be very impressed by the organization and the content of the book, both from the photographs and the cognitive content.
Oh, that's great to hear, and that's a wonderful summary, and that's coming from a giant. So I certainly am pretty sure that I made a right decision having the copy of the book. So Prepa and Narayan as well, that how did you decide to take on this monumental task? How did you decide to deal with this topic, write such a huge book?
Yes, first of all, go on, Prepa, go on.
Go on, I'll let you go first.
Okay. First of all, thank you, Professor Carrau, for such wonderful words, and coming from you, it means a lot to all of us. And you know the high amount of regard we have for you. Thank you very much. As regards to this book, the idea came up because we had written an atlas. I had written an atlas of neurotology and lateral skull base, and I had this great desire to keep clicking pictures of everything. And there was a natural transition, and when Prepa and me met over, and we decided that, as a natural progression, we should do something on skull base, since both of us practice both endoscopic and lateral skull base. And this idea formulated in our brain that it should be a very stepwise integration, and we should get this whole book up. And we decided this, and then we started working, and the book gradually just built up, from building up on the endoscopy part to building up on the neurotology and lateral skull base part. I think we just picked up step by step and kept on improvising as we went on. Prepa, you want to say something?
I think it all started off over, I don't know, must be coffee or dinner somewhere along the line. Narayan and I are among the few surgeons who do both endoscopic skull base and otology and lateral skull base. The problem with skull base is we are traditionally divided into nose or ears or head and neck. Not many of us are. One of the things about being in Asia, one of the advantages of being in Asia is sometimes that you have to do both or everything because of logistics or circumstances. And the younger generation now are usually divided into either rhinology, otology, or head and neck. But the truth is, the anatomy is the same. Either you see it from the front or you see it from the side. It's like looking at a statue. Either you look at the statue of David from the front to the nose, or you look at the statue of David from the side profile. And the skills are interchangeable. The skills that the reason why we are able to drill the skull base quite easily is because we have developed the tactile sensation that comes with drilling over the dura, sigmoid sinus, labyrinth, IAM in lateral skull base. So the skills are interchangeable. And even the instruments we use, like the house elevator, is exactly the same, almost the same like a roton dissector. So the instruments are also the same. And the fellows who have come to us over the years now have gone back and start to do both endoscopic transversal skull base and posterior skull base as well, and head neck skull base as well. And if you want to do a lateral skull base, you have to know the head and neck part. You must be able to expose the jugular bulb. You must be able to identify the 12th nerve or 12/7 anastomosis. You need, if you want to do a glomus tumor, you must be able to go follow up the 9, 10, 11, 12 to the jugular bulb. It's all interchangeable. So I think the reason we wrote this is we wanted the younger surgeons in the future to know that you can do 360. You can do everything. It can be done, and the skills are interchangeable, and the anatomy is the same wherever you look at it. I hope that makes sense.
Yes, absolutely. That's a great tips of and encouragement to the younger surgeons who want to dwell into this specialty. So,
sorry. We also have Michelle. Michelle Rotisberger was a fellow during when we were writing the book, and he was very instrumental in the review part. Being from Switzerland, he works like a Swiss clock, precise. Everything was super precise, and he was the one who wrote the review of the pituitary glands for 90 pages. I think it's one of the most comprehensive reviews on pituitary that I can remember. Michelle, would you like to say something? He's also from the middle of a course, and I thank him so much for taking his time off just to be with us.
Yeah, sure. I
Yes,
great to hear the perspective.
Yes, good evening, everyone, or morning, is it? Thank you, Prof. Repa and Narayan as well for the invitation. Do you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Yeah.
Yes,
okay, perfect. Yeah. So it was circumstances and luck. I was with Prof. Prepa and also Vignes Warren from neurosurgery in Kuala Lumpur. I'm from Basel, Switzerland. I'm a neurosurgeon. I'm a skull-based surgeon, and I was involved in the clinical practice in cases and in the surgical training with ENT prof and the neurosurgeon, and having this 360-degree perspective from a neurosurgical side, also being involved in the complex rhinology and skull-base anatomy to learn the approaches, to learn the interaction between both disciplines was extremely fascinating. It's extremely complex. It's for a neurosurgeon, as we are used to the transcranial view, it's a new world as well to learn it as if you're a junior neurosurgeon and you want to train that, you need to work with rhinologists and specialized skull-based surgeons. So it was for me, from a clinical perspective, an incredible experience. And in this time, the book was already planned by the two editors, and Prof. Prepa asked me to help. And you say it's the Swiss part in me. I was very motivated. The thing that I really liked, and that was pointed out by Prof. Carrau as well, is that this step-by-step description of cases is really something that was not found in many books, and I found it very attractive because most of the cases that you see described, especially in the endonasal endoscopic chapters, are cases that we operated on during the time I was there. So it was for me not only to write the chapters and take the best screenshots and think about how to point out the perspectives and the steps for young ones. While I was learning details on the approaches myself, writing it down as a chapter. So it was all in one, and an incredible project. And then Prof. Prepa was very inspiring by discussing which cases, how are the chapters. The TOC was well organized already, so we knew as well how to distribute topics to different colleagues. I involved colleagues from Switzerland. So overall, I think what we could do is provide a book that involves high-end cases, not from the past, but from the last years. And it was a personal journey. It was a collaborative journey. And I want to thank you guys again. It was an incredible chance. And I'm very happy that this book receives very positive feedbacks. I saw a review on operative neurosurgery. There are several different from other journals. I recommend it to many of the young colleagues. And I think the stepwise image concept is really unique. Yeah.
Thank you, Mikhail. That was an excellent overview of the book, and you put all the benefits and all the strengths of the book forward very nicely. So I think we have heard the Swiss perspective. That brings my mind the time dimension. So my question to you, Narayan, is what was the time scale of the book from its that you thought about the book and then the book actually getting published? Because I can see it must be enormously challenging given all the illustrations, the photographs that you have.
Yes, so it all started off by we do a lot of cases. We have a good caseload both in India and Malaysia, and we regularly click photographs for a lot of our cases. So it was just a matter of putting all these things and start writing. But as we went into the book, we realized that we wanted to keep on adding more and more chapters. And then came the point where we felt that there was quite an overload. In fact, the publishers had to cut it short because we had way lot material to be put compared to what we have put in this book. This book has got almost 2,000 and odd photographs, and it's over 1,000 pages. But we still had more work to put in. So anyway, this took us about closer to 2.5 to 3 years. We started off by, like I told you, it was just a thought which came to us to put all these chapters together. And then gradually, as we started building up on the chapters, we got the table of contents done, modified the table of contents, and just sort of a jigsaw puzzle which fell in place. And we had Michael who helped us a lot. I mean, after Prepa and me, I think there was a big hand of Michel from Switzerland, and he helped us also arrange the table of contents, and he was very instrumental in doing the chapters, the corrections on the chapters, especially for all the chapters from Prepa side. And yeah, it overall took us about 2.5, 3 years before we got everything done up.
Narayan, could I ask what you would like to put in if you had unlimited chapters, unlimited pages? What are the other things that you would like to have included? I'm just trying, my mind boggles.
Okay, so from the endoscopic perspective, I think what we did is we ultimately came and covered it down into modules. We started off by cellular lesions, planar lesions, and then went on developing in that respect. But there are certain lesions which actually cross various modules, and those are the lesions with multi-modular lesions. We didn't really put all of that. For example, say a parapharyngeal lesion in the skull base, we have not mentioned that. And I would also think that, say in the lateral skull base, we could put in many more cases, difficult meningiomas and so on and so forth, which we could have put in on the, say, neurotology lateral skull base side as well. So we have tried to cover as many topics as possible, but yes, there are a few. So we had the choice of putting in all our cases versus adjusting them in modules. And ultimately we settled down for adjusting it in various modules. Though some cases don't really fit into those modules, they breach the barriers of those modules.
Sure.
And we were also.
And I was just looking at the book now, and I struggle to comprehend the Roman numericals about how many sections does it have. It's probably 29 sections, 1,000 pages, phenomenal. I mean, this amount of, and I can see that this book was being written even before you thought about it, because you're preparing for the book, the futuristic. So that's another message to the juniors, to those who are starting their practice. So keep the record, keep your photographs. So you never know, one day they all will help you when you're writing on the topic. So thank you.
The book is 5 kilograms. So we launched the book during COVID period simply because it was COVID. We didn't know when it was going to end. So we had to send the books online to the people who contributed. I mean, we had Rick and Daniel Pavlado who contributed. So did Sanjeev from Oxford, Benjamin Blair from Harvard. They all contributed as well. And when the cost of sending the book to Michelle was more expensive than the book itself. That's how the book was 5 kilograms. And I was also fortunate because my entire department pitched in, Revati, Jay, my entire department helped us with the entire chapters. And it was a collaboration of the whole department. And it's good when you put a project together and it keeps the department together. It's like having breakfast every day, once a week. You do a project together, it keeps the department together, keeps the family strong as well. So, and I think Narayan and I get along very well, not just because his first name is my surname, but the fact that we have very similar ways of looking at things. So we are already planning for the second edition. From the time we published this book, by the time the book was published, it was 1.5 years. COVID came, then this mucormycosis came, and in that 1.5 years before the book was launched itself, we started collecting many more cases, and we already have the material. But for the next book, we are going to invite Michelle to join us as a guest editor, so that we have again the Rolex precision in our next.
So, Pepper, what would you do different in the next book then? You it sounds like you've got it planned. Oh, yes, please, Narayan.
Yeah, I wanted to say that, we did have all the cases for every module, every section. We had enough of cases. Prepa had cases and I had cases. The whole idea, I wanted to give a special credit to all the contributors for this book, both national leaders as well as international leaders. And even Professor Ricardo Carrau is one of them. He is also contributed to the book. Now, the idea behind this was, when we were thinking about it, we did have our work, but it adds a greater flavor when you have the world's best authorities or people who have the maximum content or maximum experience in those things to be giving their viewpoint. For example, we had Professor Carrau talk on endoscopic transpterygoid approaches, for which I think he's one of the masters in the world. Same way, we have Indian people who, for example, we have Professor Renuka. She has a huge list of angiofibromas. So we asked her to write on angiofibromas. We had Professor Kirtani, who had one of the largest series of CSF rhinorias, say, in the country. So we asked him to write on CSF rhinorrhea. So although we had a lot of work ourselves, we knew how to put it. But I think the whole idea was to give people rich academic content. That was the basic premise of this book, was to give an academic content and to put up so many pictures that people don't really have to imagine. When we read a lot of textbooks, I had students who think anteromedial to this is what, or posterior superior to this is what. Here, the idea was, you don't have to imagine. If you read a sentence, it's there on a picture to really figure it out. And that's the way we learn. We learn better when the picture gets imprinted in our mind. And that was the whole reason why we have put a stepwise delineation of all these procedures. And there are not too many books in the world which really put it in a stepwise manner. And that was all the basis and thought behind all this. And of course, I must give credit to Michel, because although we put up these chapters, he himself volunteered and he said, I will write a sort of a summary of all these approaches. So he wrote a summary for pituitary, or he wrote everything about a craniopharyngioma, or everything about, say, a clival approach. And all these chapters, I think Michel has done a fantastic job. I find him to be a very meticulous guy. And personally, I feel that when we talk to him, he had his own ideas of what is lacking in the book. And that's when you talk of second edition, we want to put all that we think is lacking in this book. A true 360-degree which involved, this is a otolaryngologist perspective, to be honest, about endoscopic skull base, or say trans-temporal skull base. We have also included some posterior skull base as well. But to make it a true 360 degrees, we require a whole neurosurgical perspective as well. All the neurosurgical approaches, and then it becomes true 360. So Michel, being the neurosurgeon in the group, I think Michel said he will take the lead over, and he will work up in such a way that we cover all what we haven't covered in this book for the second book as well.
Thank you. That's very useful, Narayan. So, Raewyn, apart from Michel, we also have another readers joining us today. So, actually, we have three of them. It's Swati Kodur, again from Mumbai, India. So, Swati, she's joining us, giving the readers' perspective. So, welcome, Swati. We also have Vaibhav Hapalia and Jeet Amin. So, they have read this book and they find this very useful in the clinical practice. Let's hear from them.
Thank you, sir.
So can we have
Swati, can I introduce you? Swati is from Pune and
Right.
she's practicing and she has been my student and she's also contributed to the book. Vaibhav is from Rajkot and he has been my fellow. Vaibhav and Jeet is from Ahmedabad. Both of them came as fellows and they wanted to learn. And the good thing is they wanted to learn all of skull base. It was not one aspect of skull base that they really wanted to learn. And that's the benefit. Now we see a lot of people in India wanting to take up both lateral as well as endoscopic skull base. Earlier, we had these groups who wanted to do only endoscopic versus only lateral. But now we have a whole generation of new surgeons who are willing to take up and do both. Go on, Swati. Sorry.
Thank you, sir. It's
Okay,
quite
so
an
can
honor.
we invite you to the studio, please?
Thank you.
Can
Thank
you
you, sir.
get them in the studio? Thank you.
Thank you, sir. It's quite an honor as well as surreal to be sharing the screen with all the legends. Firstly, I was Dr. Narayan's resident during the period that the sir was working on the book. So I've seen the amount of hard work, the amount of a borderline obsession that he had for the book, and the amount of work that they've put into it, clicking pictures at every point of time, and making sure that everything is stored, and even preparing for the next edition and everything. So the beauty of the book, according to me, is it's a simplified version of what a giant and what a enormous a topic of skull base is for young surgeons. So coming from a young surgeon's point of view, it gives us a comprehensive overall view of what we can dream of. It's very well thought of. The topics are divided well. They are very well neatly divided into area wise, including the lesions first, telling us about how to approach, telling us about the complications, and also a rehabilitative point of view. So that is quite something that gives us a hope that it's like a little what do you say, encyclopedia, or rather a 5-kilo encyclopedia that gives us a lot of information. So, it is one of those books that you must have in your libraries if you are hoping to be doing better, or hoping to get yourself involved in skull base. And also, since it includes both anterior and lateral skull base, it doesn't divide, your attention into one point. So it is one of those go to a comprehensive, wholesome book, and we are really waiting for the second edition.
Thank you,
Thank
Swati. So can
And
we
it
hear
also
from
includes
Vaibhav?
posterior skull base as well, just to add to that. But yeah, please.
Sorry, ma'am.
Now we'd like to hear from one of our other invited readers.
So could we hear from Vaibhav? Or
Yes,
Jeet?
sir.
I'll
Yes,
go.
yes.
Yeah, yes, Vaibhav. Yes, please.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Vaibhav.
Yes. Greetings to all, and it brings me immense pleasure to be with you all. And being an avid reader for this book, religiously we have followed this book since last year, ever since I developed interest in skull base. And being a fellow of Narayan sir, the book is as methodical as sir and both the authors are. And sir has included each and every stalwarts in the field. And it is a very, the flow of the book is very easy. You can read the book and perform the surgery. It's that easy, to be, if I'm not exaggerating. So right from the start of the anatomy until every complications and depicting each and every images and relating it with each and every step. So the book is very much methodical, and I do recommend to all the budding skull-based surgeons. And to me, it has benefited me more than any other book. And for my old skull-based pathologies and my skull-based anatomy, I prefer to read this book and the articles mentioned in this book. And as Professor Carrau has mentioned that it is a theater of events. Anatomy is the theater of events that should be clear in mind of any surgeon. So that is very much clearly mentioned in this book. So it has helped me to a lot extent in my practice.
Thank you, Vaibhav.
Referring to Professor Carrau's introduction about a theatre of events. Thank you for that.
Is Jeet, have you connected to us, Jeet, in the studio?
Yeah. yes, doctor. First of all, thank you to all to bring me on this platform. Thanks, everyone. Now, as a budding skull-based surgeon, everyone has a confusion from where to start. But when I got this book, this book is just like a Bible to Bible of skull-based. After reading this book, as Dr. Vaibhav said, just going through this book and we can perform the surgery. And the most important thing for this book is both the authors narrated the experience of their whole life. So getting experience of both the famous surgeon, it was very it was good to read this book, and I recommend every budding skull-based surgeon to have this book in his or her shelf.
Okay, great. Thank you. I think it is great to see that all these young surgeons, they just finished training. They're looking forward to their long career ahead. And they have such a passion and enthusiasm about the specialty. And that's a great thing, very heartwarming thing to see. So Raewyn, looking at this 360-degree approach, it's almost a cultural thing, isn't it? Like certainly in the UK, it's quite a team-based approach, and it's quite a clear division between lateral and anterior, especially when the ENT side of the skull-based surgery is concerned. How are things in Australia?
Well, very much so. You know, there are very few people who will do the 360-degree approach as per this book. But even if there aren't, it's still applicable for those doing, you know, 180 or 90 degrees or whatever it's your area. I mean, for me, I do anterior skull base, but you know, that often ends up in other areas of the skull base, posterior skull base, etc. But I think I was listening to one of our readers speaking earlier about how this book it made them feel more confident. And I think that's the key, because the skull base is a pretty scary part of the body. And I think if you've got something where you can go and read a step-by-step approach, when you've got something that's a little bit anxiety-provoking coming up, you go read this, you know, a couple of days before, the night before, whatever, you take it into the operating theatre with you. And it does, strangely, it does actually make you feel more confident with what you're doing. And so that's where this is really unique. No matter which part of the skull base is your area of expertise or interest, you've got that step-by-step approach, you've got videos, etc., that you can go to. And thank you for that, both of you. I really appreciate it. Okay, great. I think that was a really wonderful insight into the book, and it's great to hear from you, Narayan and Rokade. So I think at this point, it's quite relevant to talk about books as such, isn't it? So what is in our practice? Raewyn has raised a very, when we were having an informal chat, what is the relevance of the books as such to the current modern times? And may I invite you, also the other authors, Prof. Sama, Anshul, Christos, then Isam, and Prof. Paolo is not there. So if you are able to join us, that will be great. So we can have a discussion about the importance and relevance of the books as such to our current times. I guess our question is, in these days where everyone's got everything electronic and everything's available at the drop of a hat, what is the role of a textbook in this day and age? And I think we've sort of already partly answered that with earlier discussions about QR codes and having e-textbooks, etc., online. But I guess it'd be interesting as someone who's poured years of their life into these books, and then do you think that textbooks are going to continue to be a thing that are in demand and in use, or do you think over time that may not be the case? I'd love to hear from Prepa, Isam, Narayan. I think some of our authors on.
Well, if I can, there's, you can always read books online, but for some reason I can never use what's that, Kindle, or what's that iPad-like thing? Yeah, maybe I'm just old, or maybe I'm just one of those who hold a book in my hands. So I still go to a bookshop and buy books for me to read. I think a book that is nicely written, clearly written, does not only reflect the content, it also reflects the philosophy of the author, the amount of the philosophy of the team that writes it. And I think although getting content from the YouTube or Twitter or TikTok, all the social medias is great, but I don't think it's going to ever be able to stand the test of time like a book. We, all of us, learned the head and neck from Marwan and Stell. And until now, I think we still look to Marwan and Stell, or this is for the English exams, the FRCS exam. I think Ashok will know what I'm talking about. So there are some legendary books that we still hang on to. So I think the books will never go out of fashion, no matter how fast the technology comes.
I have to say, I'm the same. I have a Kindle beside my bed and I have a book beside my bed. I haven't touched the Kindle in months. There's something about it. I can't, and maybe I'm showing my age as well. Narayan, sorry, what?
Raewyn, can I just blurred my background. I took off my green background. You can see that at the back. Okay, so that's the amount of books that we read. Okay, so that itself goes to prove what the value of books are.
It makes
you
a
can
good
see that in the background.
Absolutely.
Practice what you preach. That's fantastic.
Exactly.
As the book says, the illustration. So your picture says a lot more than the words. Okay, so if you are having any of the authors joining back in, so we'd like to hear back from them.
No, I don't see any others back.
No, okay, so let's ask these young trainees that in future, how would you like the books to be?
The way it is at present, sir, the physical books, and both the physical and online books can be helpful. See, the online books are handy and the physical books are required. And to read the book, physical books, you have that book in front of you, and you will keep you will have that feeling that no, I want to read this book someday, right? The online copy of the book can be hidden in some of your documents, some of your downloaded files, so you may or may not come across that thing, but the physical copy is a must, and it should be there in future also.
Okay, thanks. Good to hear that. So it in your mind is to the place for the books in future. Prof. Sama, I think I can see Anshul had joined back again. So can we have you in the studio, please?
Just trying to put the background back on. Hello again.
Hello, hi. Hi.
Welcome
hello,
back.
Anshul.
Thanks.
Just to recap, we are discussing about the value of the books in general in modern times, especially in the medical field and its value in training. So what is your own opinion on that, just to put you on a spot as you join in?
I think that the amount of information the internet is tremendous, and that's a great asset for everybody, and that includes video resources, publications, etc. But the advantage of a book, which is quite different, is the opportunity for an individual who is an expert in this area to actually collate information that condenses into one area. I think books still will always have value in that you've got an expert who's putting together information that's really condensing everything for you. Because as you know, your patients come to you, they come with having gone to the internet with very tangential thought processes on, and unfortunately, even the educated people can get lost in tangents. So I think the books will always have remit and a role to be played in educational processes and people to really get a more directed opinion. That's my thought process.
And I guess the beauty is that we still do have the option of the electronic version of books for, to have that portability of them. But I have to say, and yet the textbooks are a different ilk, they're a different ethos behind writing of them. And I agree with you wholeheartedly, but I still just do love having that paper accessible in front of me. Yeah.
You're absolutely right. There's something about the smell of paper and the interaction with paper, which is quite different with an electronic interaction. There is a certain, you cannot exchange that.
It's hard to appreciate the organization of something when it's electronic. You can't quite see how far you are through the book, or it's just, I don't know, I think it's harder to appreciate that. And having the actual book in your hands, I think it's much easier.
I think it'll be interesting to see what happens in future. Now we are probably, are we the dinosaurs? And how do this new generation who is born with the digital technology and they're everything with the smartphones and the digital tablets, what happens to them 20-25 years down the line? Whether they find the problem the other way around, whether they find the digital books much more friendly than the print books. So that will be interesting. But Narayan, what do you think? How do you compare the online, the journal articles, the online discussion forums, the teaching available in that with the printed books?
Okay, so I think both have their place in the world. There are people who would like to read. If I'm reading a textbook or I'm reading an atlas, I definitely would like to read it in a book form. But yes, there are articles which you would love to read it in the online form, or you could even go on to see videos online. These are the benefits of the internet. So it's not that one replaces the other, they're just mutually beneficial to each other. And I think they both have a place. So although we have a lot of articles, journals, it is sometimes very space consuming to keep too many journals. So the advantage is on online, you can access n number of relevant articles from the journals you desire, and it's less space constraining. And I think it's more specific to the topics you desire rather than to take too many topics. Whereas where books are concerned, as you see, I read a lot of books behind me. You see, these books are books on certain topics. So I may require to go forward and backward, as Raewyn already said. You would want to go back and forth. And sometimes when I'm reading the right page, I would want to go back to the previous page and just glance both of them together. You could do that online, but I think the connect which is there in the books is something, your mind sort of relates more to a book rather than to an online version at times. Both have their place. There are people who would prefer online books because it's easier, it's less cumbersome, it's easy to travel around with them, read it in the bus, flight, etc. But both are complementary to each other.
Thank you. I think this is the next question. I can see Isam Isam has also joined us. So Isam, just to put you on a spot. So if you have a case to do and you need the most up-to-date information on that topic, you go to your library. Will you pick up a journal or will you pick up a book?
Good question. If you talk about techniques, how I do it, it's rather than book to have the tip and tricks and videos to see it. Journal give you more update about success rate, quality of life. I think book is more, even for hard book, I like it because you can see how you touch it, you enjoy reading it. So I'm like old-fashioned, not digital one. I like more an hard cover than journal online for this.
I guess
Thank
we're
you.
all surgeons. We really like to be able to have something tangible in front of us. It doesn't matter if we're reading it or cutting it. I think that's we can probably all agree on that.
Very tactile. So,
Yeah.
okay. Then another aspect of the books I was thinking through, listening to all of you. It really, you're looking at a time span about 3 to 4 years from concept to getting the book in the print. So how much relevant does it stay to that, to those 3 years, the advancements and developments that happen in those 3 years? Any views on it, Prepa, Anshul?
That's a very interesting point. So Raewyn asked a question about what else we would have added if space wasn't a problem. So when we wrote the chapters, for example, like hereditary, so we had microadenomas, macroadenomas, we had Cushing's, acromegaly. So we had to pick and choose one Cushing's, one acromegaly when we had lots. So ideally, if space was not a problem, we would have put 3 or 4 microadenomas, 3 or 4 Cushing's that were different. One between the clefts, one at the back, one near the upper one to the clivus. That's what we couldn't do. So what we did was we took the cases that we had in the last 2 years before the book was written. And after we wrote the book, we just moved on into now Meckel's cave, cavernous sinus. So the next edition will probably be going into tumors of the Meckel's cave and so on. So as long as the book that you're writing is about surgical steps. Now the surgical steps on its own does not change very much like what we wrote. The techniques may change, but they do not change too drastically. But whereas if you write about concepts change much more. That's the way I would look at it. So although it took us 2.5 years, the reason why the book was still relevant was it was dealing with surgical steps, and we dealt with as many different areas of a particular surgery as we could.
Thank you. Any views, Anshul?
I think it's a very pertinent point, because that's the one thing that you're very aware of as time ticks away between and the timeline slips. You're very concerned. So what we did was we looped back on the chapters that had been submitted the earliest. And before we compiled the whole lot, we just requested the authors just to review it and to update anything to just bring it up to date. So at the time of release, we were trying to make sure that we were not outdated by the virtue of the starting point. And unfortunately, what does happen is the people who contribute the earliest are the unfortunate people who have to review the chapter, but they're usually conscientious people. So that was the strategy we took, in that we realized it's important for us to review the chapters that were written most earliest and make sure they're updated with any new information, and that was integrated into the book. Now, going forward, as Prep said, there is always change, and there is always will be additionality that can be added on. You will never be able to write a book that is timeless, and in a way, the beauty of it almost is, if you think you've invented a new operation, I think what you haven't done is gone far enough back in history to look, because everything that we are doing right now, somebody has attempted. We've just been fortunate that the technology supports us so much better that we can actually get a much better outcome from it. So I think that historical record is crucial. Because yes, the new industry, the people are going to be digitally based, but this historical record will be lost unless we have it written down in books. And I think we anticipate there will be a change. And in a way, the next generation of the book, the next edition, will incorporate that. But it is often a challenge, as you said, how do we keep everything up to date? The other thing to remember is a book is an opinion from an individual. A publication is a consensus of literature and scientific process. they add information in very different ways. And we all know that sometimes you can't scientifically prove everything, but an opinion does have quite a lot of value. So I think these different resources present different levels of information that assist people in their educational judgment processes.
Oh, that's a fantastic summary. Thank you.
So
Ashok.
thank you, Anshul.
My pleasure. I've got to compliment you on this forum. I think it's been an amazing, excellent forum. Very novel, not seen anything like this. And I think it brings so much value to the table for individuals who are, in the world. Absolutely fantastic job, Ashok, and amazing co-hosting as well. Really compliment to you. Very well done. Excellent.
So thank you, Anshul. And I think the real strength of GRN is all of you. I mean, our scientific committee and all of our contributors like you are so happily, voluntarily. I can see it's nearly midnight for Raewyn, and she's here hanging on after a long skull base surgery for 3-4 hours. So hats off to your commitment to GRN and to teaching, training, and helping our colleagues. So can't appreciate any more that, Raewyn. So similarly, all our authors, contributors, you're always there for GRN, contributing in different events. Our live surgical event, so a lot of you have operated on the event. So keep updated on our various initiatives and taking this literature lounge forward. Soon we'll be coming up with the special session on the articles and that are published recently in the journals, which are very relevant. So it's not only the books, the articles in various journals are very important for us as well. We'll also have a live surgical event coming up soon. So just stay connected with us. So thank you, Anshul. Thank you, Prepa. Thank you, Isam. Thank you, Narayan. All our readers and the trainees you have brought a great value to this event by adding your perspective to it. And not the least to our GRN team who helped us in this is Dinesh of Infomedia, then Rucha of Escalate Promotions, our GRN manager, Pam Mori. So the whole team is behind this to create this event. And again, thank you to Medtronic for supporting this event. Without their support, something of this scale is not really possible. So they have helped us a lot on various GRN initiatives. So thank you again, and stay connected. Thank you, Raewyn.